It's, you know, the story of humanity that we tend to study in a book is the story that guys who won wars wrote. So that everybody knows, you know, how many cavities Julius Caesar had, but very few people know how a child was born in Rome. And that's a very big hole of knowledge. And in that sense, art, even though art has always served, not always, but the vast majority of art in the past, pre-industrial revolution, pre-political revolution, has always served the powers be in the West. Before that, it was a ritual art, as it still remains in most of what we would consider primitive world. But primitive, don't forget, means primo, means first. And it is that very essence of mysterious, almost shamanic ritual that most art came from the caves of Lascaux and Altamira to those wonderful female goddesses that you found in Northern Europe, you know, to, you know, Assyrian, Babylonian art, to early Chinese art, to Mayan, Aztec, Inca art, to Native American, you know, on and on and on. It was always done as a way to understand the world around us in a ritualistic, almost like a shamanistic way. Now, the images that were created not to have your 15 minutes of fame, the way that we perceive art to be today. They were created to explore, to augment our relationship to the world around us, perhaps to analyze things. But in the final analysis, what ancient art, from all primitive civilization, and our art today, regardless of how insane it might seem to us, and is incredibly diversified, where the whole world is a canvas, and there is no ism that you're bound to, so that there is no tyranny of ism today. We're completely, absolutely free to use whatever material we wish. In the final analysis, what all that stuff really is that it gets back to an exploration of the human experience, which I always say ad nauseum. Art is an alphabet with which we explore the human experience. And that's what they did then, and that's what we do today. And it is a creation, and it is a reconsideration, and it's an exploration. And it's amazingly audacious, considering it really doesn't bring you anything except a sensation. And that's what all art is, a sensation. That's what music is, a sensation. That's what a good book is, a sensation. That's what a wonderful dance is, an opera, a sensation. So what does that mean? Our senses. And our senses have nothing to do with materialism. It is a celebration of what we feel, right? So, you know, there's a kind of a thread that connects from the most pedantic image to the most profound image, the idea of creation, the idea of exploration, the idea of trying to figure out what the hell are we doing in this universe, or what is this universe? And, you know, it doesn't really offer any answers, and if it does, then you're really in trouble. Because an answer is always an opinion, and an opinion can really cement your feet and not allow you to go on further, because it becomes, as Ezra Pound said, a kind of a tyranny, you know, a paralysis of the brain. So it's much better, I think, to ask relevant questions so as to keep the mystery going, rather than an absolute answer, so that it becomes your opinion and somebody can either accept it or not. And every time you look at it, you're just looking at something that's dead as a doornail. Whereas if it's a question, if it's enticing, if it's mysterious, if it's, you know, if it has a point of poetry that keeps tickling you, then that thing stays alive. It keeps moving. You know, it's the difference between a swamp and an iceberg. You know, an iceberg stands still, but it's cold as all hell, or as all heaven, maybe. So, what does that have to do with daily pain? Well, I think it's got everything to do with it, because I speak about this as we all do through our own experiences. So my experience has been with this thing that, you know, with me, it started as a little kid, where I did a tremendous amount of art. And I used to do, you know, every week I would do a painting. And the painting was an exact imitation of a little postcard that my parents would give me of artists. So I took mostly Impressionists, a lot of sort of 19th century and early 20th century. Would you destroy that object? Early 20th century artists, and from I don't know a lot of other names, but a lot of stuff. And after a while, it got to the point, and this is really interesting, where when you looked at something, because you're a kid, so you had I didn't do it to sell them. I didn't do it because my parents were putting me through school. I didn't do it because I lived an arduous life and now it was time to relax. I didn't do it to decorate the walls. I just did it because it was there and it was an interesting thing to do. My parents were into it and I was into it and it was nice and it was interesting. So there was no, it was like a child's acceptance of something without any baggage. And I did a lot of paintings, maybe over 100. I mean, it's tiny little, maybe this big, maybe this big. And then when we came to the United States, they were just left there, and probably thrown away, or I didn't care. It really didn't matter, because what mattered was that later on, if I walked into a museum and I saw, one of Van Gogh's windmills that I had painted, that thing was like meeting an old buddy, And you looked at it and you go, wow, I remember that. Because as a kid, because a kid is like a sponge who embraces everything. Without, it plays life. Playing games is a rehearsal of possibilities of life that you do over and over and over and over and over again. So when a kid finds a cup and bangs it and likes the noise, and it keeps banging the noise and you want to strangle the kid, actually what the kid is doing is that he's trying to figure out what that is. He's learning from it. So it's just like practicing a piano. You got to keep doing that, where somebody wants to kill you just the same way. And painting is the same thing. Okay. So all discipline. Working on a car is the same thing. Playing pool is the same thing. Learning how to drive a stick is the same thing. Cooking is the same thing. Let's stop there. The idea of just doing things every day, like having breakfast, like opening the window and seeing what weather it does outside, incorporates the discipline to a kind of a rhythmic life, to a rhythmic way with which we live. And it comforts us, and it helps us go on. So if we can get to the point of doing a little painting once a day, once every couple of days, but continuously, it doesn't have to be a little painting. I mean, it can be a large collage or a piece of whatever, but a point of creation. I think that we become, and this is, and I don't want to sound esoteric, but I have to say this, we become one with the universe to a certain degree. And why? In 1998, when I was running a school here in New Mexico, we closed the school down. Actually, Susan was there then. And we closed the school down, and it was a very tough thing to do. And I was very melancholy about it, and I was very pissed off about it, but accepting it at the same time, etc. So I decided to do a series of little paintings while I was here packing of fires in New Mexico, because we had an aircraft at the school that we used to fly around with, and we used to go out in this airplane and constantly there would be fires. We used to fly around the fires, and they were fantastic. They were magnificent and they were terrible. They were frightening and they were heroic. They were regenerating and they were destroying. It was an interesting thing, a fire, because it might be killing animals, but there's a sense of aesthetic to a fire. There's such a grand force of nature